All right, we're live. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It's Billy and B Tam, Meridian Real Estate, and it's Coffee Chat Live Time. I've got my special guest and friend, Krista Pasini, in the building. We're in the vault, actually, live from the vault. Post-it note background, because we're going to talk about her post-it note project here at the Yellowstone Art Museum. So welcome.
Thank you. Welcome back. We were just here last night.
I know we were just here last night. And the roads are terrible, guys. So if you're in Billings, Montana, give yourself some extra time to get where you need to go, because it's basically ice rink out there.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. I already saw one accident, 2 people in the ditch, so just be careful. So we're here to talk about your post-it note project, which is in the final stages, chapter 6. We just opened last night. Pause to due to poor connection. Okay, come on, phone. Hold on, one moment. Gotta fix the Instagram. I don't know what's going on. 1 second. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna take it off the normal Wi-Fi. We're just gonna use data. See if that helps. Reconnecting. Come on. 1 second. Technical difficulties. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're back.
Where was I at? It's you. Yeah, final stages.
Oh yeah, the final stages. Thank you. Yeah, so we opened last night, and I think it went well.
Yes,
Yeah, we probably had an audience.
Yes. Yeah, we had little bits of audience, but this was our first time.
Yeah.
Proper audience.
Yeah.
Full protocol.
Yeah, we've been rehearsing quite a, what is going on. Oh, hold on.
For Instagram
on Wi-Fi will improve location accuracy. I don't care about that.
Welcome back.
Okay. Instagram, come on. Squirrel. Anyway, so why don't you tell us a little bit about the Post-it Note project, how it began, what inspired you?
So back in 2012 now, I'd asked my dad, who was suffering through a progressive neurological disease called Lewy body. He didn't know that at the time. We didn't have the diagnosis, but he was using Post-it notes a lot through my lifetime to keep notes about, light switches being on and off, or writing notes to us, like a form of communication. And I just started to think about telling his story through performance-based process or something of that nature, some medium of art making. And he agreed, and he was enthusiastic to say as much to name it as well. He named it Stuck on You.
Oh, okay.
So the title is actually given from my dad. He passed away in 2014, and I worked on it a little bit in 2016. Just didn't feel like I had the right material or the right vision or even the right skill sets, I think, as an artist. So over the years, I've been developing more kind of interdisciplinary methods. And finally, this year, it felt like I had enough of a vision to create it in a space to be in long term, to really unfold both the installation component and the performance component of it. And so just really thinking about if we were to tell a story about someone's life, not in a book, but in a performative way, over a long episodic journey across months, what that might look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this started, chapter 1 started back in August.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I arrived here to this spot, the vault, in June. Got installed with everything, and got started with the performances in August with chapter 1. And we've been doing a chapter every month.
Yeah. And just so those of you who are watching, like, what the heck is the vault? So it is part of the Yellowstone Art Museum. It's back behind. It's that building that's kind of behind, and the space is amazing.
Yeah.
And you've done this great art here, all the Post-it notes, and people have written their own Post-it notes.
Yes.
Added to it, right?
Yeah. So the past since June, when I opened the space up, people can come in. I consider this an installation called Note to Self.
Okay.
So folks can come in and write notes, leave them behind. I'm going to archive all the notes when we're done. Each time there's a performance, notes go up on the wall based on the performance, or they're integrated into the performance. So it's a bit of a memory keeper for me of like the collective consciousness of the project. Also notes and little funny quips of people that have come through the space.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty cool situation to be part of,
Yeah.
right? So let's talk a little bit about chapter 6.
Yes.
I'm involved in it, and I'm loving it so far. Let's talk about the process.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you've been a part of previous projects with me, and so I feel like one of the things I think about is that I don't have a straightforward process that's like, here's a script and this is the process, and we'll do this many times and then we'll put it on stage. There's a bit more of a exploration and a curiosity. I often am inviting the artists I work with to bring material of their own into the work. I create the container for it, and the container obviously for this is my dad's life, his death, and chapter 6 is very much the final parts of his life is passing through. And so I wanted to, with this chapter, look at many points of entry. And so when I came to all of you, what was it, 9 months ago or something, and we started talking about this project.
Well, you and I have been talking before that last year, I think.
Yeah.
Possibly about like what kind of project we talked about. Flying.
Yes.
Because I was flying a lot at the time, right?
Yeah. That was when I started to really, because Post-it notes had been living really much kind of in this one container of thinking for a long time. And once I realized my dad had worked for an airline company for most of his life, and the airport just really struck me all of a sudden in the poignancy of this arrival and departure. There's just something really visceral for me, like when I step into a tarmac or when I get into the plane and getting ready to depart, and that wildness of being up above the world.
Yeah.
And in hours, you're somewhere else. And so I think there was something metaphorical and poignant to look at with that. So I was like, well, Billy flies a lot. We can start this conversation there. And you were really interested in what it's like to be in that culture, that kind of occupational culture, right? And started researching some of those kind of roles and flight attendants and things like that. And so it was really fun to see each character was built from the individuals in the chapter. And then I molded the storyline with my co-director partner with on this chapter, Patrick, helped build a script for us to kind of keep it tied to the main arc of the project, and also kind of tying it back to the storyline too. Yeah, and it was pretty cool, like researching. So once I knew that my character was going to be a flight attendant, I started watching flight attendants when I would go to the airport. Fly, just kind of like observe and like. How they walk, how they talk. And I think we had for a while, like folks were flying in our chapter, so it was really fun. We were sharing like pictures of the carpet. Because the carpet in airports, it's like a dulled down Las Vegas carpet. Right. Yeah. Like the muted version of Vegas. And I loved some videos that y'all were sending of like people late for flights, running to get their gate. And Sherry was sending in audio files that were like just snippets of like overhead announcements and things like that. So we got, I think for me, I was really steeped in what you all were bringing to the piece and the culture of what we were building. So we actually built our own ideas around what we wanted there to feel like. So this is definitely our terminal. It's our version of the terminal. Yeah, and we're actually sitting in the real airport seats. From our airport. The airport loaned me airport furniture, and they were really sweet to do that during the holidays too. So if you didn't have a chair to sit in the baggage claim area, I'm so sorry. I have them. You're like, they're here. We'll get them back here soon. So so what was cool about the process is that, like you said, there was no script, it just all started from scratch. And we all brought something to the table and like worked on ideas and character development. I mean, she's a multitasker, so we had some people cast for certain parts, and just through sickness or other busyness in life, people dropped out, so you kind of had to take over a few things like the sound and the character, and so she's running around playing a character, doing sound, lights, like. That ended up being such an interesting, like, it's certainly stressful, and because we had somebody that had health problems, so they couldn't do their part. And I'd already taken on a role for something, so then I was like, well, we'll kind of refit the script for that. And then our sound and light tech has a project that needs to go out of town for North Dakota. And so it's like, okay, so what does it look like if I take on sound and tech, which I was going to do a little bit anyway, but now I'm doing all of it. So then the character that I took on is someone that's just kind of doing odds and ends anyway. And so I was like, well, actually, I think this is a really lovely way to finish this chapter, finish this project. It fits really nicely. And then I found out my mom had shared the story that my dad often introduced himself to people when they asked what he did. He would say he was the custodian. And so I felt like that was really lovely. That it meant to be. So it's tied in well. We pivoted pretty fast. There was a lot of pivoting. You all are rock stars. Intrepid is the word I've been using in my mind. Intrepid. It's very
what I like about it as an artist, performance artist, it's challenging because it's a lot of improv, right?
Yes.
So one of our characters ended up being, we ended up turning it into somebody in the audience, like
Yeah.
a random person that we're going to pick every night in the
Yeah.
audience. They're a character.
Yeah.
So you never know what they're going to say, how they're going to act, and so that's been kind of fun, keeping me on my toes.
Totally.
But not to give away too much because we still have, what, 3 shows?
We have 3 shows left, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's the hardest part about this chapter is I want to talk about all the fun details.
I know.
Like I want to say like 5 more sentences about what you just said.
Right. But you're like, no, it's going to give it away.
Yeah.
But what's cool about it is very interactive with the audience.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Even when I came to chapter 5,
Yeah.
with Lisa Overgaard was in, I felt very like I'm in the show, right? Because one of the other characters, she was, interacting with me.
Yes.
And of course I cried like a baby and but it was good. A lot of emotion, like ups and downs. And you just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. So I would definitely, there's still seats available, right?
Yeah, there's about 4 seats left for tonight. I think there's 1 seat left for Saturday, and there's 4 seats left for Sunday.
Oh,
yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm pulling up.
Absolutely.
So definitely want to get you in for that. So let's see. Oh, this question. So your dad, he had Lewy body dementia.
Yeah.
Is that different from Alzheimer's? Like maybe for those who don't know what that is.
Sure. I think so. Lewy body dementia. I think more research became more research in the 90s. My dad was already getting sick in the 90s, so I don't think there was enough information for him to be synced up with the support that maybe is more prevalent now with diagnosis. I think the family, there's a lot of families have neurological diseases, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and even Lewy body. They have some similar pathology. Lewy body, I always say, does have some really distinct differences. It has a very psychiatric effect on the person. It causes hallucinations. It causes you to act out your dreams. It causes a real behavioral change in people. Not that that's not true of like Alzheimer's, but I think it's really significantly. I think just there's a severeness in it. It's always fatal. It's not something you can manage it at a certain point, but there is a point where the brain does get to a terminal point, and life expectancy at that range is like about 10 years old. So it can be a pretty fast onset. It can be very much. It can look like Parkinson's because it has a lot of Parkinsonian qualities to it. But the Lewy bodies, the proteins are essentially what the disease is, shutting the brain down in small neighborhoods. And it can be like a small part of your brain might get shut down for a moment and might not be able to do something, or cognition might be affected, and it'll come back online, but then eventually it does shut down. And so it's a really, I think, nerve-wracking experience, I imagine, for anyone who's like not being able to trust their mind anymore.
Right.
And I think about a lot of diseases or chronic illnesses that have that effect where you can't trust your energy, you can't trust your mind, you can't trust your body.
Yeah.
Be frightening.
Yeah. Yeah, my grandma, so I'm not real close with my grandma, but I know that she passed from dementia. I don't know the kind or whatever, but I remember my mom struggling because she couldn't remember her, her things. But when she found out, I mean, it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
So what was that like, kind of seeing that happen, seeing a loved one go through that?
Yeah, I think this project really has, a lot of folks are asking about, like, how can I live through these performances? Because I think by the time we end this run, it'll be 28 performances, each about my dad. But most of my life was watching him pass away from that disease. I was probably 10 or 11 when he started to exhibit symptoms. And there was, I think initial efforts were like anxiety and antidepressants, things of that nature. But, by the time I was in my early 20s, he was very severely affected. He had to retire on disability. So I was watching someone just slowly slip away, little piece by piece, and someone who was very vibrant. I always reference Robin Williams. He had the disease as well.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so a lot of times his manner of death was suicide. But his wife often says, because of the disease, like it pushes people to that kind of psychiatric mental health place. And I think that watching my dad certainly in that mental health component too, I was watching this very vibrant, witty, funny man, just slip away. And, you know, you could see glimmers of it sometimes, and you would catch it in some lucid moments. But I talk about with a friend of mine, Heather, who we have usually.
Yeah.
You know, her father passed away immediately. You know, it was a sharp moment. And there's just that comparative, I think, of like, there's no comparative of like what's better or
Right.
what's less painful.
Right.
There is something really different about here today, not tomorrow, versus 20 years of a slow decay. And so I think it shaped me for sure.
Yeah.
Most of my life has been shaped by that disease and watching him go through that.
Right. And that, is that preventable? Do you know? I mean, as you've done research and learned more about it, is it something that's preventable, or is it just something that's like hereditary?
It's a great question. I think so. My dad and his brother and their uncle and their mom all had
Oh, really?
some form of, so correlated, my grandmother didn't have a formal diagnosis, but had dementia-like behaviors towards the end of her life.
Mm-hmm.
Her brother was diagnosed with Lewy body. My dad with Lewy body, and then his brother died, also suicide.
Wow.
But was formerly with the diagnosis of Parkinson's. And so I think even though Lewy body isn't formally said to be hereditary, I do wonder a little bit about that. And I certainly think that my siblings and my cousins and we think about that in our lifetime. So I don't know that prevention is like, you know, the brain health, obviously, like just being mindful. I think my biggest effort has been like, can I manage my stress better in my brain? Can I advocate for my cognitive health, and can I do some things of that extra dopamine? So I think I imagine in the next like 10 years, we're going to see a lot of information come out about brain, you know, this family of diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Lewy bodies are getting enough research, hopefully. That find out a bit more.
Right. So how do you think telling your father's story through art has affected you personally, and what do you hope it communicates to others about coping with neurological disease?
Yeah. I think art making, so there was a point in my graduate program where we were talking about maybe pursuing art therapy, which is in more of the psychiatric lane. Like you go into more of a science-based degree program with art as the supplement, the conduit.
Oh, okay.
And I initially was interested in that, but then I realized that I didn't necessarily want to go into science. I wanted to stay in my art path. And this art in my feeling is that it's apparently healing.
Yeah.
If you build it with that ethical engagement involved, and I think that this project has had that at the full or at the front with each time we presented something. And so I think there's a lot of catharsis for me in building the project, each chapter, working with the artists and talking about what you all want to bring to the table and what pieces of your life are intersecting with the story. There's definitely a component to that. And then I think just thinking about everyone that comes in the room has some connection to that story too, you know, whether it's they have a family member or they themselves are dealing with loss. And so I think that I'm probably offshoot of the question, but it's like I think when anytime we can be in a space communally where we're laughing and crying, can be really, really helpful.
Healing too.
Yeah, and getting into a place where it's something unexpected. That's another thing I think this project has kind of helped me remember is the playfulness and the funniness of my family's humor, which was really very much influenced by my dad's sense of humor. That can be a great conduit for healing too. So very playful, fun families that come back to my life that I haven't had for a long time.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's see. Oh, so now that the Stuck on You series is coming to an end, do you have any projects that you already have in your mind that are you going to take a break?
I do get that question a lot.
Yeah.
I'm like, is this not enough? But I think it's a great question because I think that's a natural. So this has been a bit of like an on-ramp marathon. I feel like I've designed and helped build 7 scripts in 6 months, and I've been I'm in that flow. I was chatting with one of the folks from the November chapter about that. But I like that I'm so comfortable and familiar with that process of creating and creating quickly. I don't want to lose it, and I feel like I've done it long enough over this residency that it feels like it's sticking. Yeah. So I could go into a project later because I do want to rest after this and kind of get back to my odds and ends of my life. I put a little bit on hold just to do it.
Because you're basically just
I'm here
living here.
Yeah,
right?
very much here. Very much here.
Might as well throw a bet for that.
Which I think that Mike and I planned ahead of time that this would become something that's followed me up and support. But so break for sure. I think I would say I have like 5 projects, and each of those projects has like tendrils that come off of them. So in my lifetime, if I get to touch those projects, that would be wonderful. But as you know, we've done the breaking classical project in years past, and I feel like it would be really lovely to revisit.
My battery's low. Keep going.
Okay. I worked on the breaking classical project with you, and have several other artists that have built that work. It would be lovely to produce. My clothes right here.
Oh, is there? Perfect. Okay.
And I think also like holding this project for my dad's story for as long as I have has been really lovely to be in that long-term meditation of holding someone else's story. And I think that's helped me think about my own story.
Right.
So I thought about whether I would visit some aspects of my own artwork, narrative, etc.
Yeah.
But I think I usually let artwork come about naturally. Like I don't push into it.
Yeah.
Like right. Like you and I spoke almost a year and a quarter ago. It wasn't like the things needed to come into place for it to feel like it was ready.
Right.
So I really do wait for those kinds of environments and the right timing for people too. Like if someone I'm interested in working with isn't ready or is the timing isn't right, I like to consider that too.
Yeah.
Because the people I work with, it's their artwork, so I want that to feel like it's in alignment with their life.
Right.
As much as I can to not sacrifice the artist experience for the audience experience.
Yeah.
That you all feel settled to.
Yeah. You have a very calming way, because I'm very like more of a forceful. Like my husband always, he's like, you need to be more feel like water, and I'll just be like, ah. And then I walk in here and you just have a very calming.
I think that I used to be very bundled up and kind of staticky, and I just realized that I was losing a lot of what was happening in the moment. I realized like performing I'd become so anxious that I wasn't enjoying performing anymore.
Yeah.
And I was really just like, well, then this isn't for me. I need to let go. And so this has also been a huge exploration. Each chapter I've become more and more and more and more involved to the point where I'm speaking lines.
Yeah.
Which I have never done before.
Oh, really?
No, I've always
been, you're a natural.
Just like a movement artist, right? And so this project has just slowly pushed me over and over and over more into more performative options.
Yeah.
And so I've overcome a lot of anxiety doing that. And so the calmness, I think, is a result of like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can do that too. I can hold this and this. And so I think that I've kind of in my mind, like you say, you speak in the shower a lot.
Yeah.
I'm in the shower, like, I have built myself like an anxiety remedy because I've given up on performing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you're a natural. I had no idea you had never like actually spoke before.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. I usually like it's such a and they're just like, I can't hear you, and I'm like, well, I just won't talk, then I'll just dance. So this has been a huge undertaking to get brave and to be in that position. So
well, you have great comedic timing.
It's fun to play. It's fun to play.
It is. Yeah.
I enjoy having you as a counterpart.
Yeah.
We're a bit of yin and yang.
We're great.
Yes.
Yeah. We're great together.
I can't say anything else about that.
Yeah. We can't give away too much. So let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Well, you kind of spoke a little bit about it, but the use of post-it notes is a powerful visual metaphor for memory and loss.
Yeah.
Can you discuss how you incorporate this element into your art and what it symbolizes?
Awesome. Yeah, I did. So derived from my dad and his life, quite literally, he used post-it notes so much he ended up laminating some of them.
Oh.
So like at night when I would come home from dance, ballet, he would have already gone to bed, and there would be like at the end of the counter, dogs have been fed, dishwashers clean, kind of notes like that. And then if I got up in the morning, he was already off to work, and there would be another set of post-it notes. So very much the functional aspect of just acknowledging my life with him through post-it notes. But then just really recognizing the way that we use them all the time in our lives, whether it's for a reminder or like a little sweet note or things like that. I've just enjoyed they're colorful too. They really pushed my color palette, not today, but the metaphor of memory of this they're kind of ephemeral too. Like they're not something we think of as like an art, like that's something we put into like a museum. So there's a bit of casualness about post notes. So I think we tend to be a little bit more like easygoing. Like, I'm just gonna draw this little doodle and put it on there. Right. But then I've enjoyed making poetry from them, like refrigerator magnets. You just go around, you look around and you just continually link and sync them together. Yeah. So you create that way. But then I'm an art all of these and save them and make them digitized. They'll be on the website. And I think that years from now, if I want to remember this project, I can do it through a multitude of ways. But one of the fun things that I think would be really fun is looking for post-it notes that are going to remind me of a different chapter. Like you all have been putting post-it notes up. I'm going to remember a few of them and look at them, and it's going to be a memory system for me to remember this project by. But also, the memory isn't static. So the more we touch a memory, the more we're going to change it. And so I think this has also been kind of a metaphor. Like we can rewrite and rebuild memory systems. So while I've been doing a project about my dad's death, I'm also building this layer on top of those memories, which are the memories of this performance. And so the post-it notes kind of are emblematic. It's like they're a tactile item that can help me kind of call back this time. Yeah. It is cool. I still have to put a couple of post-it notes in there. I think I'm going to do bossy. Bossy. Yeah, I use post-it notes all the time at work. Yeah. And it's to remind me. Yeah. Also, and so right, grocery lists. Yeah. Grocery lists. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, this is a good one. We kind of talked a little bit about this too, but what have been some of the biggest challenges and triumphs you faced while working on the Stuck on You series? Gotcha. I think just the sheer magnitude of this is, the space, it's about 170 feet of wall space. So we printed 170 feet of custom wallpaper. I've never hung wallpaper before. Oh, geez. And this is a peel and stick, so it's not like proper wallpaper, but there was a lot of just stress around that, getting it right. And so there was kind of that initial part of getting that in, realizing that the floor needed to be something supportive for Tansy. So finding Marley floor was kind of those kind of initial structural ones. Sequencing, like planning something that was going to unfold over a period of months and keeping each group collected and in touch, things of that nature. Those were some of those pieces. Stamina, having the stamina to do this all. And then particularly, I would say that this chapter, because we had two folks step out, doing, what was it, January 2nd is when we started a script rewrite. Yeah. So if you come to this show, we rewrote the script, majorly rewrote the script. As of January 2nd, I started working on a rewrite to help accommodate those two folks that couldn't be in the show. Right. And I'm brilliantly surprised, not surprised. You all just were like, here we go. We're going to go this direction, and it's settled. And it was so lovely. I can't remember how many. It was very quickly. We had a rehearsal shortly afterwards that I was like, fine. Yeah. You all are just settled in, just fine. But that was pretty stressful. Because you built up over a period of months something, you all have spent so much time building your material. I wanted to make sure the container was settled and supportive for you, because all these previous chapters, folks had had these really blissful, kind of soft, wonderful experiences, and I wanted that for you all too, because that's my goal. Is that the artists aren't stressed, at least as minimally as possible. Right. There's no way you can deal. We still get anxious. Yeah, which is good. You want to be a little nervous, right? It's performance. But so I wanted to work as quickly as possible to get that settled down. So I think that was an incredible amount of stress. But because I've been building so much of the effort to be calm, I was really able to do that pretty swiftly and metabolize it. So I'd say that's probably the biggest one. I'm sure there's some in the middle for the fact that I can't recall. It's been surprisingly very, very smooth to do all of this. Yeah. And what's cool about it is all the chapters connect. Yes. Right? So somebody that has watched the first chapter, all of the 6, it's like a big connection. Yeah, I feel like this one's an Easter egg hunt. If you come to all 6, or not even all 6, if you come to several, there's little Easter eggs throughout this chapter. In some ways, Patrick and I talked about it's a bit of an epilogue to some degree. So it's this tying together of all the chapters. But we've also really wanted to make sure each chapter stands alone in its own universe as well, so that if you're coming to just one chapter, you're not completely in the dark. Yeah. Although this one is, I think if you've not been to the previous chapters, it's a bit of a ride, I think. I'll be curious to see folks who haven't been to the previous chapters over the course of the next shows, like what their takeaway is.
Right.
Last night, what was the comment? I heard 3 or 4 times, I'm gonna have to go home and really think about this and chew on this, or that's some things I need to take in. So like some deep thoughts were happening.
Really? Well, that's good. We did our job. We did our job.
Totally.
Were there any tears last night?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. There's usually, I think we started the conversation in chapter 3 about make them laugh.
Yeah.
And make them cry.
Right.
And those are really great emotions. We love to laugh, of course. I think culturally that's something we do a lot in public, but we don't cry as much in public. And I've been in a kind of a deep conviction about that for a long time. It's like those are very healthy things to do. Our body actually does quite a bit of physiological processing when we cry.
Yeah.
I'm someone that didn't used to cry at all. I would be like, well, I'm going to schedule that for Tuesday at 5. And, I'll be at home.
Right.
Alone. No.
Right.
And I think probably just through digesting my dad's life and his death in 2014. And, just life in general, just realizing like it's a beautiful thing to let your eyes get misty, or whatever that might mean for you. And I have someone who came to the show last night, wanted to come again tonight. He emailed me this morning. He's like, I'm good, and actually I am headed to go see someone in hospice. And last night really helped me prepare to go see them. And there's someone else that is going to go see a widow or something like that. So I think there's a bit of the honoring of something we're all going to do.
Yeah.
Which is that.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Every time I think about it, I get anxiety. Like, is it just blackness? Like, and there's a moment in the show, I won't give too much away, where you kind of ponder that. Like, what is after this?
Yeah. I think it's been a big question for me in general. I love how each of you kind of are dealing with that question, content and material.
Yeah.
And one of the things I thought of was like, what if it is nothing? And I was just I spent all my time here while I was alive worrying and being full of anxiety and fussing. And then what if I'm just bored?
Right.
So I'm like, man, I wasted so much time. So I would say like it's helped me become a little bit more brave and just like, let's do this.
Let's just do it.
Yeah.
What do you got to lose? Life's too short.
Yeah.
It really is too short.
Yeah. Because if I don't have anything to do, if it is nothing, then that sounds boring. I want to be busy.
Get it all in. I think that's why, like, my husband always makes fun of me. He's like, are you ever going to slow down? It's like, no, I don't have much time. I got to get it all in.
I think that, everybody approaches that differently, right?
Yeah.
What was it? David Lynch just passed away, and he had a quote about focus on the donut and not the hole. And just that idea of like, well, this is what's happening. So
That's a good
be in this moment.
Yeah, you only have today.
That's right. I can't worry about tomorrow because I'm not there yet.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. Right? It's like we didn't know the roads are going to be over.
That's right. It's a little
what advice would you give to other artists who want to tackle deeply personal or challenging topics?
That's a great question. So I think that, initially, like I said, I had started working on the project in 2016, and I didn't think I was ready. The gestation of my dad passing didn't feel like the right timing. I didn't have enough space. I often will let projects sit for years before I come back and touch them. I'll work on them and then come back to them. So that's one practice that I definitely recommend. It's not available to every artist, of course, but I like to know that I'm settled. Personal material, I always love the phrasing of like, if you get emotional working on the material, that take consideration that maybe you may not be able to hold it yet. Like that there was something in a previous chapter, somebody asked me how I was doing with all of this, like kind of a question of how I could possibly go through this. And I was like, well, if I wasn't settled in my process.
Yeah.
I wouldn't present this work.
Right.
Because I'm holding space for the artists and I'm holding space for the audience. And so if I'm not settled, then that means that's not going to be a stable environment.
Right.
So it's a question.
Yeah, that's good.
And I think that personal storytelling is really, really powerful. There's just so much you can learn about what other people see in your artwork. There's like phrases of like, be weird, because you don't know what weirdness you're going to reflect on someone else. And you're like, that's my lane.
Right.
You just don't know what your story helps other people see or helps them grow into their voice, or what they want to talk about. So I think we often like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. It's hard or it's embarrassing or those kind of things. But I think that there's a lot of power in them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really like a memorial to your dad.
Yeah.
Right.
We tried to, and I think memorial is a great word. We tried to like think about it. Memorial feels like we did the memorial back in 2014, and so I've always really wanted to try to keep the audience involved. As the word entertainment isn't quite correct,
right?
But to take the project beyond memorial and move it into something that's an experiential conversation. That's not. We are talking about my dad and his life and his passing, but it's not just let's sit in this room and reflect on that.
Yeah.
And so I think the I haven't found a better word, but entertainment has always kind of been in my mind. What is the audience's experience and what ride are we taking them on? And to be ethical about that.
Yeah. It's very I think it's very thought provoking, right? To just kind of everybody can take something out of it different.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we see books or stories that are very much a person's narrative and you can kind of jump into their life and take that ride. This chapter really allows more points of entry.
Yeah.
Because you all as an ensemble have different narratives.
Yeah,
which I appreciate.
And it's really cool. Like, I didn't know any of these people other than
that's
Krista.
Right.
And now I feel like we're like this tight knit little family now because we're all sharing emotions and we're sharing this performance art, and it's just really cool. And now I can call them my new friends. That's right. I mean, I knew Patrick a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't know him like that well, but now I know him more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like one of the cast members, she's so sweet. She's because I have my back is really she's like she'll bring me something and it's almost like very parallel to her character. She's very empathetic and aware, so it's really cool to see that.
Yeah, it's a great ensemble, and you all, and I think that's a good thing to touch on. You'll have like a slice of something that's yours within your character, but it's like adjacent, so you're not like doing biography of self or autobiography.
Right.
It's like a caffeinated character that takes off in a new direction. So I really love how you all have an ownership in the material because you've written your monologues.
Yeah.
You all have written your own monologues, that you have monologues, and the material you all build is yours. And so when you're performing it, I really feel the honesty in it.
Yeah.
It makes me happy.
Yeah. Let's talk about the AI component.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Well, it's an airport, of course.
Yeah.
And so when we first started talking about the environment of airports and kind of just that wildness of the busyness and the kind of the flux and flow of it, I think early on Patrick had designed in his mind this idea that this AI system was this antagonist. I think it might have come from a conversation where he was asking you some initial character questions, and he was like, "Do you like your job or do you hate your job?" And you said, "I hate my job." Your character.
My character.
Yeah, sorry.
Not my real job.
This character that you had built, Adeline, does she hate her job or does she love her job? And you said, "I think she hates her job." And so that built this opportunity to create an antagonist, so to speak, of AI, this kind of watcher. And so we started building this material around this kind of observant overlord. Yeah, Otto. We named it the authoritarian. I can't remember. Utilitarian terminal overlord.
Yeah.
That's the name of the shirt.
Is that what auto stands for?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that. See, I'm even learning something.
Automated utilitarian terminal overlord. I think is what we've gotten to. But just really building that into the narrative, so it's almost a character to some degree.
Yeah.
And we worked with some options. I think initially it was going to be like my soft yoga voice kind of vibe. I was going to like really drop my voice really low. I think it was a kind of tonal AI. But then we started working with the idea of a real AI.
Mm-hmm.
And since our culture is just really interfacing a lot with that lately, it is more prevalent.
Yeah.
I put it into a software that delivers you back, the more automated.
What software did you use?
It's a good question. It was called Natural Reader.
Okay.
And it gave me some voice options. I think I chose Adam.
Adam.
And Adam, I sped up his voice just a little bit and worked with his pronunciations. There was a few things that were pretty choppy, and just started building that narrative with Otto's script writing, and that's what we stayed with. Yeah. And so Otto is a character in the show.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's your boss.
Yeah, he is my
And my
boss.
boss, too.
I don't like him.
Yeah. I like that.
He likes Otto. Well, the other connection with AI too is so like you said, the cast, if they had a monologue, had to write their own monologue. I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
But I had ideas, right?
Yeah.
And so I use ChatGPT all the time
Yeah.
in my real estate business. And so I thought, why not use ChatGPT to help me write my monologue?
Yeah.
So I did. I plugged it in. I said, this is the character, gave it a background story. This is what her story is, and it shot out. It gave me 4 different monologues.
Yeah.
I mean, I edited some of it, like some of it was weird, but it's just crazy, like where technology is these days and the connection.
Yeah. And I was gonna say your monologues, they have some really lovely poetic moments in them. They feel very tethered in text. One of your monologues is designed with a memory from you.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that kind of like blending of, like you said, I think it kind of helps build some structure and then editing and finding your path through it. But yeah, that series of monologues for you is it's gorgeous, and I love watching that unfold in your character as they go through the night.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good ride.
Yeah. And I just finally memorized everything once. The night before last.
Yeah.
And that's how I am on like last minute,
Yeah.
just like cramming it in. It's
Yeah.
the ADHD in me. I'm like, okay, I got to get these. I can't have my paper anymore.
I think that was the thing that with the cast of like helping with managing anxiety and managing expectations was that I'm in residence, which means I'm in process. I'm exploring and creating artwork. Not a sketch, but like I'm interested in the inquiry. So when I'm inviting in the artists, I'm also asking you all to be like relaxed in that process too. And there's been projects where like, and I think they're still up here, like the script is hidden in the post-it notes so that the cast members can come up to the wall and find their.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And we've had just lots of different layers of experience where it's like, if it's going to help you have a performance that's honest and comfortable, then, doing things like that. So I think we've had lots of conversations about you don't have to be off book until you're ready.
Yeah.
Like that. And I think that helps create less pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually like when I do musical theater at the CBST, I would have had been off book.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of nice to be able to take my time with it.
Yeah.
Not be so stressed out.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
It's just fine. And I always, particularly with every chapter, I always say it's going to be same but different. You're going to drop a line, add a line.
Yeah, which I did last night.
Yeah. And I think that the story, like, if the emotion's right,
yeah,
and the story delivery is right, and your conviction is there, I don't know that it always, there's favorite parts. Of course, you're like, oh, shucks, I missed that.
Yeah.
Part. The audience is still going through that experience with you.
Right.
I think that I prize that, at least in this work, I prize that.
Yeah.
Over getting every line.
Yeah, because then you sound too robotic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Ooh, how can the community support or get more involved with projects like yours at the Yellowstone Art Museum or in their local areas?
That's a good question. I feel like this one grew through word of mouth a lot. A lot of the audience members have been folks that came and then brought a friend and then they started coming in that way. I think that, and of course, there's been a lot of folks who are like, I didn't know about this. I'm so upset that I didn't hear about previous chapters. And so I do think that there is some like mainstream places where we do go find out what's going on. And I think there's a lot of artwork happening in this community that's a little quieter and not as on the mainstream. And so I think that, there's always Jake at the Gazette does a really good job. That's what he puts out. I think they did a shout out for us today. He usually has a good shout out that way. And I think just paying attention to some of the places that, that are showing up and posting those artworks. It's not always places that are theaters.
Yeah.
But a lot of times theaters open up and rent out, like Nova rents out spaces for projects, that are coming in that are independent.
Right.
Paying attention to artists and following them, maybe, their social media videos or things like that, because those digital spaces can be really great. But I guess I'm kind of fumbling for a good answer with that, because I think that world is changing.
Just follow and support. Right?
Yeah, I feel like
Show up.
the social media world is changing, so artists sometimes aren't as present there. Well, I think I'll have to come back to that.
Yeah.
I think that's a shifting answer.
Yeah. And the art museum right now, are they doing free admission? Is that my understanding?
Oh yeah, that was the other part of your question. So
Yeah.
the museum has free admission for I think the next 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can go in for free. I think that's one of the most wonderful parts about the museum right now, because their exhibits change, right? So you can go in and just look at one exhibit and then look at one exhibit. You can come back as many times. So that's kind of been my path while I've been in residency here. Because before, I think if you went and you paid, you're like, well, I have to look at everything. And it's going to be a certain amount of time that I would need to spend. And not everybody would choose that. Or financially want to choose that. But when it's free, it's like, oh, they've got a new exhibit up. I can just go check out that one exhibit. And you can just slowly take in the whole exhibit.
Yeah.
In the museum a little bit at a time. They have a newsletter that they send out every Tuesday that lets you know when they've got coming up performances and things like that. They have a new artist in residence coming in here in February.
Really?
And they'll be here till June, and I think then a series of artists will come in and meet that person too. And so their social media is also really prevalent, and they do a lot of community like news blasts as well. But their newsletters good.
Because you're the first one to do anything in here, is that right?
Performance,
Performance art.
I'm thinking of the first performance-based artist they've had in here, because there's a signature wall over here that has the artist they've been hosting artists since 2014.
Okay.
And they didn't have anybody for a little while, kind of post-pandemic. It was really quiet, and so they had someone in right before me, a painter, and he left, and then I came in. So
cool.
this is kind of the first year they've started it up again. But they're slated for next year. A nice group of artists.
Good.
Yeah,
It's a cool space. It really
it is
is.
a cool space.
And we talked about how we don't know if it's the project or the space, but we've all had some very vivid dreams.
Yeah, I had some more this morning. Mike,
Me too. Tell me about yours. Or if you want to, maybe it's private.
Yeah, that's been one thing about this particular project chapter, is it has a bit of that haziness to it, and I think that it is creating a different subconscious realm. And so I think you were the first person to mention dreaming, and a couple of people like me too. And so dreams that they're not like necessarily attached to the project. They're kind of just more simple. You still got enough play.
Oh yeah.
But so just like Patrick had a dream about flying the other day. Which was your dream?
No, you keep going.
Just situational kind of things, but they often have like almost like they're embedded, not necessarily, like I said, the content of this piece, but the kind of like way that we built this piece. It has like this really floating way about it. I can't really describe it.
I know.
And I don't get like the whole dream. I just get like little like moments of like me in a cafe or me on a snowmobile or just these weird things.
Yeah.
And there's just elements to it that are like, this is something really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
So okay, so I didn't even connect this whole traveling aspect to my dream.
Yeah.
But now I just did. I was like, whoa. So no, I was in New York for some reason with my family, and I saw a plane kind of flying over, and it was kind of acting wonky.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and all of a sudden it just crashed into a building.
Whoa.
And I was like, holy cow, right? In the dream. And right away, my thoughts were, oh my God, is Frankie okay?
Yeah.
Because in my dream, I don't know, you know how dreams are weird, right?
Yeah.
She was either at work or at her apartment. And
Yeah.
so I called her right away, and she was okay.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, I saw that too, but and then I think I woke up.
Whoa.
But what was weird is in the dream, I thought it was a dream. Like in the dream, I was like, okay, I'm dreaming about this. I'm going to wake up. But then I didn't wake up in the dream. But then I woke up in real life. It was just so weird. But
Inception.
Weird.
Yeah, that's some deep layers.
Yeah.
I think we've created a little bit of a portal of something with that.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, delightful and lovely, because a lot of my work that I do at Renzel Studio is meditation, sleep-based meditation, which works with subconscious. And so I wonder about the intentions that you all have created around this chapter and the way that you're working together has helped cultivate nice dream spaces to just kind of process. Because dreaming is really great for, helps us process and kind of digest and metabolize things. So it's been delightful to hear that you all have some dreams.
It could have been because of the Benadryl. Totally. I paused it a little bit. Did you have any questions for me? I know you talked about you wanted to interview me.
I was like, I've been talking about my project for so long. And I was like, well, I kind of wanted to just hear from you because creative process, we've done a couple projects together. And just how you approach this kind of work and like what that, what you glean from that as an artist, because you get to live as a, as a real estate agent, and then you have this wonderful growing practice as an artist too.
Yeah.
Just what maybe you pull from. I don't know if I have a specific question, but I'd just love to hear about your process.
Yeah. I don't know. I felt overwhelmed. But then I love this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I thrive on chaos. I do. And I think that parallels to my character a lot. Like she thrives on chaos, I think. And I don't know, when I thought about her, so I came up with the name Adeline, and I think I told you this, as I sat in this is gonna sound so funny. I sat in this psychic class. For some reason, I don't know, I was in this stage in my life where I'm like, I just wanted to learn more about myself spiritually, and so I went through this psychic class, and the gal that ran it, she's like, oh, your spirit guide, her name's Adeline. Oh. And I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah, and she said, and this is what's crazy, she said she was an old flapper back in the day. And I was like, whoa, that's weird. And because I'm really into that, like I love that era. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna name her Adeline. And then I just thought, okay, who is she? Like you said, does she hate her job? Yes. Like she had these dreams and she never got to do them, and she's still like she feels stuck. Yeah. Right. Which stuck on you. Yeah. And she feels stuck in her life. So it's just like this constant battle. Like she really wants this, but she doesn't feel like she can get there, so she's stuck here. Yeah. I don't know. It's a good character to dive into. Yeah, I was gonna say, do you feel like a lot of times when we build these characters that have that kind of arc, it can be cathartic to go through that. Yeah. But also, how do you manage the emotionality of that? Yeah, that's hard because like even towards the end, and I don't want to give up too much, but towards the end, I start to really dive into her emotions, and it comes out like I can start crying on it, like during that monologue, but I like rein it in, right? Because I don't want to be like, Yeah. And so that's a very emotional part for me. And then so after the show's done, I kind of feel like exhausted. Yeah. Right? Through like going through that emotion of like how would she feel telling her last confession? Yeah. And then she has like a big like finally letting it all out at the end. Yeah. Situation. It's emotional. And there's a little bit of parallel to my own life, right? Yeah. Like obviously, there's some things I wanted to do. Yeah. Like I wanted to go to New York and do the Broadway thing. So that's real. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. I loved I don't think it gives it away. There's a part where you talk about setting up shows in your that is real. It's real, and I just the more I hear that line and that piece, that part of your character, I've been thinking about that a lot. Cause I did that as well. Like I would invite friends over for the weekend. Yeah. And I would produce a show. Yeah. Like I think some of my friends were like, "Oh, this is work." Yeah, yeah. And prop lists and the whole thing. I was like, "Oh man, I've been doing this for a long time." Actually. Yeah, isn't that funny? And this place, this room, the way that we structured this chapter, very much feels like a kid. The kid in me is because they were like, oh, we need this thing. Well, what's in the building? Let's grab it from the house. Right. It feels like we're just pulled in all of these like really just playful kind of quick moments to tell our story. Because it's not about this perfect like space, because we're having the imagination fill in the blanks. Yeah. So that part of the stuff. And that's true. So great. Yeah. I resonate with that too. Like, here's my audience. Yep. Here's my spotlight. It's my desk. And here we go. Yeah. So it feels like
in that moment when you're talking about that, you're really speaking about the space as well.
Yeah.
Like, this is our stuffed animal moment.
That is true.
You're invited in.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's all true. Like,
Yeah.
my parents were never supportive of like my dance, wanting to dance. So I would watch videos.
That's awesome.
And I would just like, that's how I taught myself. And I would try to mirror what they were doing. And yeah. And so, because they would never like, take me to dance class or, I mean, even in my teenage, it's funny because I'm kind of giving away a little bit here, but in my teenage years, I got involved with musical theater at the Studio Theater.
Right.
And my parents would take me to rehearsals.
Oh,
and of course, I wasn't driving at the time. And
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, I've got to get to rehearsal.
Yeah.
And
did you find a way?
I did. And at the time, I had met my now husband.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, well, my grandma can give you a ride. And so she would give me rides. And then all of a sudden I was just like, well, I'll stay here.
Right.
It's easier. And then I just started living there.
You're like, I'll do this.
I just started living in his grandma's basement. So I could easily get to rehearsal because like that was a passion of mine. I didn't want to give it up. And so, so those of you are that watching and don't have support, just do it anyway. Find a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that monologue is very true to my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are beautiful moments, and I feel like you said, you built them kind of both narrative and then layered this character in with it too.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a really cool ride to watch you keep adding layers, because we don't finish building the project just because we start audiences, right?
Right.
I think each night we're still kind of finding little pieces of the character, little moments to interact with each other and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see where Adeline goes by the time we get to Sunday.
Yeah.
And what are those final pieces that we get to find out about? Because surely we could take this project and keep working on it and refine it and refine it and refine it. But it's fun to work on it just for this like tight little window and be like, how much can we find out about this project?
Right.
And these characters before we have to let go.
Yeah.
You all are deep in already. It's just Thursday, we're on Friday, so I'm excited to see it.
And I'm gonna be sad.
It is sad, I think, to let it go. Is sad. But that is also that ephemerality that I'm living with, right? That we have that non-attachment. We do have to let things go.
Mm-hmm.
Not just people, but experiences.
Yeah. And so that's why you have to just enjoy it while you're
That's right.
Moment, right?
Oh.
I'm gonna take your whole post-it note wall.
I'll just mail you like a giant 5-foot section of it.
So really quickly, so you said this is wallpaper. So did you?
Yes.
How did you design it?
So
obviously these are real.
Those are real post-it notes that are designed. So on the window over here, I will show a picture maybe later. But I invited some folks up to our studio downtown. We have about Jake's. Yeah. And we did about 2.5 hours of just stream of consciousness. I said, if it's in your brain, put it on a post-it note, put it on the wall. And so we got a big section of that wall covered in post-it notes. And then I had our friend Allison come in and photograph it. And then she worked with my brother, Nancy Creative, to render it down into a graphic. Oh. And then my brother printed 170 feet of the wallpaper, the adhesive peel and stick wallpaper. So the post-it notes are real from, they're kind of what I call the OG group.
Right.
Who kind of helped generate that first kind of prompt. So I kind of see the wallpaper as prompt.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to start with this ridiculous, I didn't want to wait for the residency to accumulate post-it notes because it would take a long time.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start with this really intense environment to begin with. And I think it's interesting because it's a very busy pattern. Mm-hmm. But as you commented, people come in and they just kind of settle down. There's a quieting that happens.
Yeah.
I think that is a little bit meditative, despite the fact that it's a very
it's cool. And there's a scene where we're kind of frozen standing, and that's my time I read like the post-it notes. If I'm staring at a wall, it kind of keeps me busy while I'm waiting and frozen in place. But yeah, it's cool to see what everybody wrote on there. So what are you gonna do like once you unpeel this? Gonna be trash?
So the post-it notes, the actual ones, I'm gonna archive those, and then we'll peel as much as we can. I'd like to preserve and put onto board. See if I can preserve it.
Frame it.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how much we can preserve. I think some of the stick is gonna maybe hinder that.
Right.
But I'd like to do that as much as possible.
That'd be cool.
And then send it for folks if they want to have
I
a
will
piece of a piece of wall. Okay,
Yeah,
sounds good.
absolutely.
So we'll see
That'd be
about
cool.
that. We'll start that process next week and see how much of it, is salvageable. I think, it'll go just fine.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
hopefully, yeah, I wanted to be as best possible working with paper, recycling as much as we can,
Yeah.
and trying to be thoughtful about it. But it is a ridiculous amount of paper. for
I
sure.
wonder if you could even like whatever you can salvage. I mean, I'm sure people would buy it as artwork.
It's a good question too. I could do a little, because we have a lot of props that we've accumulated to, like a rubber chicken and an office chair, and just through the course of the last 6 months, I was like, well, maybe folks want to have a little piece of the show, so some kind of a pay what you will kind of
I
vibe.
think so.
Cool.
I'll buy it. That's good. Anything last minute words you want to say before we end?
Thanks for having this.
Oh, thanks
We're gonna been in our pajamas maybe or something.
Yeah, thanks for driving all the way down here in the horrible roads.
And yeah, if there's some seats left, I'd love to see you.
Yes.
Make a reservation. It is reservation only. Drive safely if you're coming to the show.
Yeah. And it is free.
It's free. That's right. Yeah, it is free, and you get a lot of fun out of coming to the show. It's about 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's a 30-minute window of the ride too.
Yeah.
So we offer a little bit of time for you to get some.
Yeah.
It's fun. Mm-hmm.
Definitely want to get on the ride. So join us. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being my guest. It's funny because we did a coffee chat first chapter.
Let's go look at that one.
And now we've gone all the way
All the way
to
to
the
the
end.
Thanks for looking at me. I appreciate that.
Cool. I know. I thought about that last time. Like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I totally appreciate it.
Yeah. So, well, thanks again, everybody, for watching and support the local arts. Do it.
Thank you.
We have a great art community here in Billings.
Me too.
Proud of that. So
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Well, have a good weekend. Drive safe, and hopefully, we'll see you here in the Terminal Bliss.
Come back to Terminal Bliss.
We'll see you guys later. All right, we're gonna end there and see you, Instagram. Maybe we'll jazz hands our way out.